Welcome to my channel. This is a channel dedicated not only to my 2012 Jeep Rubicon, but to Jeeps in general. And to us Jeep fans who just empty every pocket to keep our passion for our Jeeps alive. One of the most overlooked upgrades when you're lifting your Jeep is the drive shafts.
And of course, my drive shafts had to fail at the worst possible time, during the first storm of the season.
That's right, folks. Ruby needs a new front drive shaft.
To fix my drive shaft problem, I went with the Rubicon Express JK1803 drive shafts. They fit my budget perfectly.
So beautiful.
Now originally, I was going to do this upgrade myself and film the whole thing and do a nice how-to video, but a couple reasons why this is not a how-to video. First of all, there's a ton of videos out there explaining how to do the Rubicon Express install. I just didn't want to beat a dead horse with this one. And secondly, it got really freaking cold and I figured, you know what? It's going to be a whole lot easier to just take this into a shop, pay the hour-and-a-half labor, and be done with it. So that's what I did.
Because there's just not that many people that I would trust to touch my precious Ruby, I took mine to the best. I've always had really good experiences with specialty truck and auto, and this installation was no exception.
So 90 minutes later, my buddy Russ had not only the front drive shaft replaced, but the rear as well. But the front one is where all the problems were.
Like I said before, drive shafts are so very often overlooked. Mine were no exception. They did pretty good, 164,000 kilometers. The design is pretty basic. Universals on one side, CVDs on the other. And it's the CVD side that failed. You can clearly see here that the rubber shield failed, which swapped grease for grime.
Not a normal sound. Not a normal amount of play. I'm just so blessed that this shaft didn't completely fail and ended up falling out of my vehicle. So what really surprises me is the rear drive shaft, because it's the increased angle that causes the CVs to fail. And the rear drive shaft has CVs on the pumpkin side as well as the transfer case side. And as you can hear, the CV sounds great. There's a little bit of play, but it's probably even a normal amount of play, to be honest.
Don't let the smaller diameter of the Rubicon Express drive shafts worry you. They're superior in every way. They include 1310 U-joints instead of CVDs. As a hidden perk, because they're smaller in diameter, they allow more clearance around that pesky crossmember found on 3.6 liter models.
Best place to test drive shafts, in my opinion, is out on the highway at highway speeds. If anything's out of balance or out of round, this is where you'll know it. And so far at 100 kilometers an hour, or for you Americans that are watching, 60 miles an hour, everything's totally fine and smooth. Pretty happy with these Rubicon Express drive shafts so far. Obviously they are like about a half hour old, so they better work at this point.
So the Rubicon Express drive shaft installation and road tests are completed. So far, I'm really happy with what the Rubicon Express drive shafts look like. It was a much needed upgrade, and it's, like I said earlier in the video, it's so often overlooked. Even when you only have a little bit of lift, like I do on my Rubicon, only 3-inch lift, the increased angle was very, very, very hard on the front drive shaft specifically. I don't really understand why, because the rear drive shaft, just a stubby little thing, as you saw earlier in the video, and it actually would have had a even steeper angle than the front drive shaft. Nevertheless, it was the front drive shaft that failed, and that's what we got taken care of over at Specialty Truck and Auto. Again, super happy with the installation. It was only a 90-minute install. Again, I'm not gonna do an install video on this one because there's tons of those available. I've got some links, should be popping up over here for you to check out the install videos of the Rubicon Express drive shafts. I'm going to do a long-term review on this, probably in about a year, because obviously driving around town, being a mall crawler isn't a real test for aftermarket drive shafts, Rubicon Expresses, or anybody's for that matter. So I'm going to do a long-term test and you know, kind of review how these do on some of the trails that I'm going to go on in the next year, year and a half, 2 years. So again, I highly recommend the Rubicon Express drive shafts. If you like this video, please like it, share it with your friends, and don't forget to subscribe.